This week on The Blitz, it's a special, extra disinfected version of the Fitz Blitz. Viruses running rampant. Here we are, quarantining ourselves in the studio. Timmy Fitz, Chris Zavaglia, Stephen Babb. We're around each other too much to where it's too late for whatever.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Whatever we might have had, we've handed around to each other multiple times in offices and microphones, and my birthday party this past Friday.
Yes.
Yeah.
At a bar, at the dance floor.
Yeah, we snuck it in, boy.
Oh, man.
Snuck that in. So we'll determine if that was a successful birthday. If I broke the 0 for 2 I had going as what's the gestation period for coronavirus supposed to be? 4 to 5 days, and then have it a little different than the flu? Yeah. Son of a gun. All right. Special guest gonna tune in with us there at 12:30. My mom, Marianne Mancuso, live and direct from Sicily. I'm gonna try to have her peer into the future for us. Because, boy, chaos, gentlemen.
Yeah.
It's, there's some unprecedented steps being taken. I think the Supreme Court is not in session. Having something stop their session like this for the first time since the Spanish flu of 1918.
And there's a lot of comparisons to that flu epidemic or pandemic compared to what's going on now. We don't know what we don't know, and it's every day it seems like some more news is coming out, some more pieces of something, this, that, a lot of misinformation being spread.
Oh, yeah.
Literally from leadership top down. So it's kind of, it's an unsure time. And news just broke a little bit ago that the Bay Area counties will be on shelter in place for 3 weeks, meaning all non-essential businesses to shut down and people asked to please stay in their homes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Figured that was developing, that was something that was coming, as these are the kind of steps we've heard about, the curve, the spike of what happens when a pandemic is brand new, when there's a virus that there's no inoculation for yet, that there aren't things in place that would normally be in place for an infectious disease like this. It catches health officials off guard, and it doesn't help that, Trump's out there suspending, or rather firing parts of agencies that would have been nice to help be prepared for something like this. Or
That's like firing your starting rotation and going into the World Series.
Yeah, let's do that.
How are you supposed to make this work?
Yeah, we don't need. It's more like, the coaches especially is what it feels like. Just fire the coaches before we start.
Yeah,
that's fine. We'll be okay. So, along with him not even knowing what were the proper steps and things like that, like the different organizations have to come on and correct him after. He's had to correct himself after. A lot of missteps here. So, but we've wiped down the studio before we started here, playing it smart. Yeah. Just gonna do these special precautions. It's got me starving for some action because everything's stopped. Everything's shut down in the sports world. Recently got an email earlier that one of the last remaining entities that thought about keeping things going, the National Small College Rugby Organization, has decided to cancel their playoffs as well. So full-on cancellations of March Madness, major delays to professional seasons. So there's going to be moves taken about some of these kids getting a year of eligibility back, steps involving, even the winter sports. Like, okay, basketball had a full season. Conference tournaments and national tournaments were disrupted, though. That's something that a kid was denied in his eligibility.
That's what you honestly look forward to.
Yeah, we could have skipped the other stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone, college basketball is a lot more hyped, I feel like, than the NBA. But especially, people look forward to March and March Madness for what it is. And to not have that this year and have it entirely canceled is just a weird feeling.
Yeah, Target had an ad yesterday in their Sunday paper, and it said watch party in advertising big screen TVs. So I helped them out and I doctored it up a little bit. I put nothing to watch party.
Yeah, you want to see a replay of the 1980s series of baseball going on that those were going through on MLB Network. All the top 10s. Check all the top 10 lists right now.
Yeah.
You and I can argue about whether Buster Posey should be listed 8th ahead of Yadier Molina, but it's fine. We can get, that's the kind of stuff we could still talk about.
Actually, you know what? I'd actually give that to you.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Because it's the first time I've ever haven't been all, Buster's probably one notch better than Yadi than this year. I was like, wait a minute. I'm bailing on that this year.
Yeah, and after last season especially.
Exactly. So,
Yadi's Yadi.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're really starving for action. We last time we talked, oh man, baseball's coming, guys. We're going to have some actual baseball to talk about. And then that kind of deflated us. So, desperate to call some action. I'm calling this, I want to cover this coronavirus and, when he goes into COVID-19 mode, like his beast mode. it's like he's this unstoppable player right now. Boy, when you compare him, it's almost like when I used to do the Albert Pujols arguments of why he should be MVP. Like Albert wouldn't always be first in some major offensive category, but he was in the top 5 of everything.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what it was. Whereas, okay, maybe some other viruses strike more fear into you in their power. Maybe they've had a higher mortality rate. Although we see the coronavirus developing this mortality rate. It's climbing.
It's coming into its stride.
Yeah, like a player developing power. Okay, MERS was in the high 30%. Heck, the hantavirus, smallpox, polio. We're not quite at polio's rate yet. You think of them like more of your murderer's row of the 1920s Yankees.
Yeah.
Good old polio and smallpox. This is where we are right now, folks. Boy, I tell you what, that coronavirus really hits for average. Well, it gets them all, right? May not have the fearsome power just yet. That could be just developing. But
definitely looking to be a 5-tool player.
5-tool rookie of the year, really emerging. Boy, I tell you what, Chris, home, road, night, day, doesn't matter.
Nah, a lot of raw talent there, man.
No splits for sure.
Next 5 years, he's looking at a Mike Trout type, career.
This is what we're relegated to, folks, to try to keep our sanity.
So I was putting some thought into this this morning, and to me, it's kind of like Michael Jordan of the 90s. So there's a lot of reports saying that this is going to hit hard quick. Then it might die off a little bit towards the end of the summer and then come right back storming, maybe even stronger in the winter.
Right.
So if you look at it, the Bulls' first 3 championships, Jordan takes a hiatus and then comes back even stronger and just dominates the sports world. So I hate to do it, but this is kind of like Jordan in the 90s. Sorry, folks. This is taking a turn. I apologize.
Yeah. Let's see. Others.
You can send all responses to TimmyFitz76 on Twitter.
Yeah, this is my idea. Just to try to, what can we call right now? We have nothing to broadcast, so
it's a weird time, man. Like I don't know. I mean,
I've never experienced. Nobody's ever experienced.
No, exactly.
Sure.
And
of our generation, this is
exactly. And I don't think I've really noticed how much I'm into sports or, how much sports takes over my life up until now.
Yeah.
And I was talking with my brother yesterday and it's like, dude, I don't know how to start a conversation now. Like, how do you talk to someone now? How's the weather? Like, how?
It sucks.
So, you've been coughing? No? All right. Okay. So how you doing? All right. Good to see you.
From a distance. Hey, you got a fever?
So I've been calling it SARS the sequel. SARS 2. I've been saying, I even refer to it as the SARS. So, because coronavirus near there, SARS had a 10% mortality rate, and as far as a sort of a 1 through 14 contagion rate, it was a 3, and that's where the coronavirus is pushing. It's now, I think some areas are having a higher mortality rate. So it all kind of depends right now where you are, how far along in this cycle it's been, as to whether it's up to an 8% sort of rate in places. So hepatitis B is highly more contagious, but far less deadly. Same for the cold and the Zika virus. I'm trying to keep that in mind, too. It's like, oh, I'm looking at all these different viruses I was told to be scared of before. Yeah, here they are. Okay. Some of them were either super contagious or deadly. Either way, we got them under control, right? I mean, it's 2020. Mm-hmm. I refuse to believe the contagion scenario. I don't quite think we're there. Maybe I have a more positive outlook than others, but yeah, there'll be a lockdown phase to to create a quarantine, because otherwise these things will run a little wild. This is what you do. This is the move, regardless of any other conspiracy theories you have around it as to why we got here. This is the playbook. When this is, okay, we're in this situation, we run this. This is what this is. Got to try to limit everybody's contact with each other while medicine tries to advance to the inoculation phase, a smoother treatment phase. So, we're not in the smallpox, polio, even yellow fever, or West Nile deadliness yet, pushing it real close. Contagiousness right now, is still even lower than hepatitis A, hand, foot, and mouth disease, the measles, the mumps, the norovirus, chickenpox, shingles, like all those things were even way more contagious.
As of right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right now.
So,
as these numbers change.
Because there's speculation. I'm not going to say expectation. There's speculation of exponential growth.
Okay.
And because we've already started to see it go exponentially over the past 6 weeks in different areas, in different parts of the country, and different parts of the world, especially Italy, who just, 6 weeks ago, showed pictures of tourists and locals out at a fountain, kind of gathering and congregating. And we've kind of been reading reports, and we'll hear soon from somebody who's experiencing it over there, exactly how serious it got and how fast it got that way. So, I mean, going from just a couple cases in the Bay Area to now we've got a lot more, and it just keeps growing and growing and growing. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's tough not to panic, but you got to pay attention, and you got to kind of be more mindful and careful in this whole kind of cavalier, nonchalant attitude that a lot of people seem to be expressing, especially on social media and different parts. I mean, just over the weekend in Nashville, they had like a concert with 1,000 people. Like, okay, that's smart. There was a map on Friday about reported cases around the country, and there were still a lot of states that hadn't had reported cases. Then that map was updated yesterday. Now every state has a reported case, I think, except for Alaska.
Yeah, West Virginia was one of the last holdouts for a while, strangely.
I mean, who goes there?
Yeah, it could be that. Yeah, lack of travel. It's all fairly incestuous anyway. Whatever it may be, that could cause something like that. Then have their bubble. Yeah, so I am somewhere in between the dismissiveness and the panicked, at cautious, concerned. But yeah, you won't put me in either of those extremes. Standard for me.
Yeah. And I mean, with this, I gotta look back at. I mean, the most recent epidemic we can think of is obviously the swine flu. And I don't remember this big of a jump for. I guess, jump for concern, emergency, all this compared to that. I mean, the deaths from the swine flu were quite high, and I don't remember it being as much of a concern as this was. Granted, this is a little bit different as far as contagion wise, and we don't really know what it is, which makes it a little bit actually a lot more scarier. But just the comparing the two is just that's what gets me. Granted, I'm with Tim right here. I'm still in the concern, and I'm not one extreme to the other, but just that's what the one thing I'm kind of having I guess not a hard time buying, but at the same time, just what the comparison between the two.
Sure. Swine flu did have, as I look up their numbers right now. This is what we do on this show. Everybody knows I've treated elections and other things with sports comparisons. It's how we do it.
It's all by the numbers.
So this is what we do right here.
Numbers.
Yeah, swine flu was just above the regular flu. And maybe it had its initial burst to the curve, and then, trying to control. It wasn't quite as contagious. It falls a little bit below the chart here. Maybe it's I don't know, maybe because of the name, it's one of those players. This guy has a better name.
Recognition.
Yeah.
What did he bat that year? What was his batting average?
I mean, he's only a 250-something dude. But you're right, there's power. And people are into that these days.
Yeah, I mean,
Here we are.
there was actually a kind of a boycott on actually buying pork products during the swine flu, which was retarded. sorry, anybody out there that did that. I didn't mean to call you names directly, but
Yeah.
you know who you are. So, I just think time seems to be moving so slowly right now. I mean, we're only a couple weeks into this kind of, I won't say panic, but this really paying attention over the last, I mean, it's been a couple weeks. Whereas the swine flu, it seemed to take months. And it's just, everything seemed to be drawn out. So, I mean, this almost, to me, reminds me of a batter in spring training who struggled, and then day one opening day starts taking the clear, starts getting on the juice. Next thing you know, his numbers jump exponentially. And that's it's kind of what we're looking at. I think.
was a little juiced up. That's kind of one thing I'm still wondering. Who got this thing the juice?
Yeah.
Did it get some Chinese juice? How did it?
That's
How did it get so strong?
I don't trust really any numbers coming out of China or
Amen to
South
that.
Korea, North Korea.
I mean, the media too. I mean, I trust them, but at the same time, they're blowing this. I
Because
feel like
they need clicks and views and people to
And see,
constantly
that's
be
the thing.
watching
And-
24-hour
and
news.
they know everyone's watching, so they're like, okay, even if we say the dumbest thing, people are going to be like, oh wow, I really need to believe that. And it's like that's where people get sucked into.
and I've actually been watching less of reporters and seeing more retweets of actual doctors.
There you
and
go.
you know they are because, and I've retweeted them. If you want to go back through my Twitter, there's a lot of tweets. Sorry, you can check, and it's usually like about 12 tweets in a thread.
Yeah,
you can
right.
tell by how they're talking that there's concern, but there's not panic, and they're giving you just the facts and the details of what they've experienced in an ER. One gentleman, his wife has it; she's 36, and it's now being more compared to a pneumonia than a flu, which
That's
means
fair,
it's invading your lungs and making just breathing difficult.
Yeah.
This gentleman was saying that just him having to help his wife out of the bed to the restroom at times, and then she'll go through periods where she feels okay and she's able to breathe and move around, and then all of a sudden, boom, it hits her again, and she's not able to move around freely, and she's a healthy 36-year-old. So I think that's also a thing too, that I think amongst different demographics, there's a perceived notion that it's going to affect each demographic differently as far as age demographics. Let me clear that up. So as older folks are a little bit more concerned, as you move down, the concern seems to lessen and lessen and lessen to where it's, I'm healthy, I'm young, I'm fine, but you come in contact with somebody that's not, or you come in contact that someone comes in contact with, and there's just the way that it can spread and affect people, I think, differently is where my most concern lies is the spread of this. I'm living with my grandparents right now.
Yeah.
And I'm like physically trying to stay away from them just in case, I came in contact with somebody during my 7 stops on Friday, trying to support local business and economy and also drink the panic away.
Yeah.
So, this weekend was a little bit difficult, and I kind of self-quarantined myself just a bit.
Let's see. Do you know what untreated viruses have the high-risk mortality rates? Untreated.
Syphilis?
HIV and rabies.
Oh, rabies.
100% untreated.
Well, that old dog.
You will, yeah.
That's the arm in the
Seriously.
pen that just can keep coming out and giving you innings.
Bird flu was, Bird flu was a pushing 60% mortality. And as far as contagious, in this 1 to 12 rating, which is a little bit past 1. So we'll see where coronavirus keeps moving. Moving up the charts, folks, let me tell you. So as you can see, we tried our best to soldier on and cover this like we cover everything else here on the Feds Blitz. But it's definitely strange times that we're each kind of handling it our own way. And that's what I'm trying to do, is avoid judging how anybody wants to handle it. But, I think there's some things that, like any player that's blown up like this, Steven, you can't stop it. You can only hope to contain it.
Yes.
And there are certain steps we kind of have to do in order to get to that phase. Got a special guest here with me on this episode of The Blitz. Felt appropriate to bring in, straight from somewhere they still have toilet paper, Termini Emirese, Sicily, my mom, Marianne Mancuso. Mom, how you doing?
Hey, tutto bene, Tim. Tutto bene. It's all good here. It's all good.
Okay, all right. You moved to Sicily last year, and I'm sure I get flooded with questions of how's your mom doing? I'm sure you're getting, Marianne, are you okay over there? You're okay over there. So First of all, you get to reassure everybody on the dang radio now, finally, that you're okay. And we'll kind of talk about what the quarantine process has been like over there.
Yeah, so all is okay. I sent a message out to friends and family on Facebook, I guess it was last week sometime, and, basically gave everybody a geography lesson because, this was at the time when things were just starting to break out in northern Italy. And when I say northern Italy, this started in northern Italy that is like just below Austria, France, and I mean way, way, way up there. So I explained to people, when you hear this outbreak, and that was before it had traveled south at all. I was explaining to people, it's like if you're in California, it's like San Diego to Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
And for family and friends in St. Louis, I said it's like St. Louis to Orlando, Florida, so that people would understand just how far away that outbreak was. Now, so all of it started there. The lockdown started there. But of course, just like it has moved across the entire globe, it has, moved to Sicily, but not to the extent that, of course, you're seeing the cases and everything that's happening in Italy. And I will say also that one of the reasons you see such great numbers in Italy and, let's say, not in France or some of the other European countries is because Italy was very proactive in testing, and so the numbers here are real compared to what they are in some of the other countries.
Gotcha. So as it's spread around the globe and then spread south, leading to a lockdown, in your area a little bit as well, what is that experience like? I kind of wanted to help us peer into the future because Italy's about 3-4 weeks ahead of what us in the U.S. may have to deal with. What's that experience been like? Things that stick out a bit about it.
Well, of course, while we haven't had the cases and the number of deaths or anything like there were up in northern Italy, it is all one country. So, of course, the Prime Minister has shut everything down. The entire country is following suit. And so it's been interesting because, in Sicily, and this is kind of on a regular basis, sometimes Sicily obeys the laws and sometimes they kind of sweep things under the carpet,
All right.
So they would announce, okay, here's what's happening. But until they announced it maybe a second or third time, did things really happen here in Sicily like they should have? And now I will say it's been a while now. All the restaurants are closed. Everything's closed except for pharmacies, grocery stores, and gas stations.
Yeah, I think that's been a bit of a panic item in the States is that some of those places would close as well, but you're still able to go there. Any restrictions on that?
Not really. Now, I have heard there are some restrictions up north to where if you go to a grocery store, police are checking, why are you there? Why do you need to be there? And they're only letting so many people in at a time so that the stores aren't crowded. But that's just not been the case here. I pulled into 3 different parking lots and went, oh my God, it's too crowded here. And finally to a store that's kind of on the outside of town that wasn't that crowded at all. So the grocery shopping here is pretty much as usual, and the shelves are full. So nobody seems to be hoarding toilet paper or hoarding, rice or whatever. we're going to the grocery store because we know if we run out, we can go back.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that doesn't mean you want to, because quite honestly, I do want to stay away from large groups of people.
Yeah.
So I found that because you're at home and you can't go out to eat, you need more groceries than you've needed in the past. So I didn't buy enough to really be at home, cooking meals at home, drinking wine at home. And the last thing I want to run out of is this great Sicilian wine.
Amen to that.
So I found that I had to go back to the grocery store today. And again, I sent you a photo from the grocery store today. The shelves were full of toilet paper because people just aren't free. And I think that that's the thing. Is it bad? Is it contagious? Yes, it is. But it doesn't do anybody any good to freak out and go crazy over it. In fact, you've probably seen some of the videos where over the weekend, Italy decided, let's all go out on our balconies and play music.
Yep. Yeah, that was pretty great.
So, yeah, it was really awesome. So that's been a real positive thing. The spirit of the people here is just something that you can't duplicate anywhere.
Yeah, because the spirit here is, screw you, I'm going to get mine. I'm storing up with everything. I'm going to get guns. I'm going to get all the food, all the toilet paper, and the world's going to end.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you saw your cousin, my niece Amy, went to the grocery store to buy a box of rice, and a woman in front of her took every box of rice and didn't turn around and say, hey, how would you like a box?
Yeah.
Do you need a box of rice? No. So, no, here it's not like that. Everybody's making sure everybody else is taken care of and that everybody's got what they need.
What do the locals say maybe about the spread of it? What's sort of the local feel of how it got to this stage, if anybody's communicated that to you?
Well, again, local,
Sicily local, versus super different.
Yeah. So where I am, I would say in the immediate 4 towns, that being, even 5 that are near me, above me, Kakamo, and of course the town that I'm in, Termini Maresi. There's another town to the west of me, Trebia, and another town, Capo Felice. I don't think, I know that we have no cases at all. The cases here have been in the really big cities like Palermo, Catania. Palermo is a city the size of San Francisco.
Yeah.
But here's what recently took place. So you've got all these people from northern Italy who were either up there on vacation, or they're people who go up there and work, that are now, over the past 10 days, 30,000 people came to Sicily from northern Italy.
Whoa.
And just today, the minister of, I'm still learning all of the correct protocol and names of all the government officials here. The minister of transportation has now shut down transportation to Sicily. So people here are just, okay, let's just be calm. Everybody's like, okay, we're just going to stay at home. No big deal.
Yeah.
But everybody has pretty much agreed, let's follow the rules and let's get this thing under control.
Gotcha. My last question for you, getting to, of course, still being in contact with, say, how highly ranked officials in the U.S. handle it. Any thoughts on how that's been done as you get to watch from afar now?
Oh, aside from the idiot that's in the White House, right?
You lump him in if you want. Yeah.
You know, governors have had to obviously take control, and it looks like Gavin's doing a good job of, as always, California being the example of being proactive and not reactive. So I think that's the most important thing. I noticed Napa County, being some posts from some of my friends on the Board of Supervisors and various cities. It appears that, again, they're being more proactive versus reactive. And I think that with this, that's the way that it's going to have to be.
I did see reports of in hospitals, I guess in the larger cities probably of northern Italy, a very triage, too many people for not enough beds and things like that happening. And, doctors almost having to make a decision on a patient's status like it was wartime. Has any of that had been reported on in the Italian news?
It has been, and they've talked about, how it's kind of like, I guess I relate it to tsunamis, to earthquakes, to other major, the Boston Marathon bombing. When people come in, they're at the point of who's likely to survive this triage kind of question. And it's, a tough decision to make because the system is being pushed. And I know I've seen some posts about it. Oh, here's social medicine for you. And, they're pushing the limits. They're going to have to let people die.
Yeah.
Well, I just saw a report in the United States on the news that was exactly the same. We have X number of these things. We have X number of ventilators. And they were comparing it to a tsunami and how they'll basically have to do the exact same thing. So hopefully it's a lesson learned that the states can take away from the other countries who have had to make these difficult triage decisions.
Well, Mom, thanks for coming on the Fitz Blitz. I think last time I had you on was a Christmas episode that we did.
Yes, it's not often enough.
My bad. Well, I miss you. I love you. Stay safe out there, and I will talk to you soon.
Too. I love you too, and just whatever comes down, just kind of flow with it and hang in there, guys.
Have a glass of good Sicilian wine for me.
Yes. Yes.
You bet I will.
3 glasses for all 3 of us.
All right, Mom. Love you. I'll talk to you soon.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye. Okay, Marianne Mancuso, direct from Sicily. So 2 things were accomplished with that. I think people got an idea of reducing their own panic about how my mom's doing in Sicily. It's literally its own little island.
Yep.
And also a little difference on how mainland Italians even are handling this crisis, Chris.
Yeah, and just from the tone of her voice, just how cool, calm, collective she was in a country that has the most cases of it, and just how mellow she was, and you just stay with it, just stay with what they're saying to do, all this and that, and we're freaking out because we have a couple cases in the county, and it's everyone's the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was refreshing to kind of hear how calm she was.
Very.
And I think my quote unquote panic comes from worrying about everybody else.
Yeah.
And how there's a kind of a nonchalant, who cares, who gets it kind of attitude amongst certain people that I have seen anyway, and people that I have kind of talked to. And, I can take care of me, and I can make sure that I do what I can, but I don't trust other people to do what they're supposed to do or do what they can to help stop the spread. So it really doesn't matter what I do, because if I come in contact with somebody that doesn't maybe wash their hands all the time, doesn't disinfect, doesn't do anything, they can still get me infected.
Sure.
Because it doesn't matter that I'm trying to do everything I can. Somebody else can nonchalantly get me infected. So that's kind of where my kind of panic comes from. But I think if everybody adopted more of a Mama Mancuso attitude about this, I think we'd all be in a much better place. And there'd be a lot less panic.
Yeah, I had seen the flip. Like Mom had seen people saying, oh, well, social medicine, this is what you're going to get, like the death squads, from talk about with the Affordable Care Act. And I had seen so many people promoting using this as an opportunity to politicize in the other direction too, I guess in my circle of, see, this is why we need universal health care. I'm like, okay, well, Sicily has it and Italy has it and they're still in this situation rather, but it does help in the costs and testing and things like that. They've had to make special waves of fees and things like that for testing and, what treatments will be like, how strict our leave and sick time rules and stuff like that are definitely affecting decisions people are having to make about their lives right now.
Yeah, and another thing that she touched on, and I think was really important too, is that Italy's numbers are so high because they're accurate.
Yeah.
Because they're able to test large amounts of people to get an accurate idea of where this is going. And that's kind of another reservation of mine about this country is we've got athletes like we saw last week in the NBA, 53 members of the Utah Jazz, team and organization got tested right away and got the results back right away. Mm-hmm. Whereas you've got people being turned away at hospitals because they didn't travel abroad or they haven't been directly in contact with anybody and may not be showing actual signs of what the hospitals deem enough to actually test for. And then hospitals are running out of tests.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, my girlfriend's cousin, she was down with a flu that her aunt said for about 4 or 5 days, was running a fever, wasn't able to break it. Finally took her in. Doctors said that she had pneumonia. And then as they were leaving, just said, keep doing what you're doing. But, we can neither confirm nor deny that your daughter has coronavirus.
Is that due to a lack of testing ability?
Yeah, the lack of resources, lack of, we got too many things going on right now type thing. And they originally told her to just, she's fine, just keep giving her Motrin, all this stuff. And her aunt's like, nothing's working.
Right.
It's been 5 days and she hasn't been able to break 100 fever.
And to go back to that universal healthcare argument, the U.S. has one of the worst hospital beds per capita in the world.
Really do.
In the world. Like you see Italy coming out with reports of their hospitals being overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. That's actually going to be a lot worse here if those numbers start to reach that kind of height, because you're going to have people that are going into labor, aren't going to be able to have babies.
Yeah.
They're going to have babies in the hallway, infected hallways, because wings can't shut down because, so I have a friend that works in Fairfield where one of the cases where CDC shut down the wing or the whole floor of that hospital, but you can't really do that, realistically across the country. If all these cases start coming up, you can't just shut down certain portions of a hospital. No. And then you'll also have people that are sitting in the waiting room that haven't been tested that could be infected. I mean, what do you do there? It's just it can exponentially go, and I think Italy will be a good example to follow as far as that, but then we also can't really rely on our government to handle things the way Italy has either. Like we've seen that over the past week.
Yeah. So things are changing every day. Every time we think, oh, well, this is what it is now. Oh, nope, this just changed again. So last night, yesterday afternoon, yesterday it was in the evening. Last night, Cal Maritime, put out a statement to all the faculty and staff in response to Governor Newsom's proclamation about trying to shut everything down, sort of imposing a bit of a lockdown. Said, so effective immediately, all Cal Maritime faculty and staff 65 or older and vulnerable to COVID-19 must stay off campus. And that will work, find ways to work around whatever you need, telecommuting, which I'm kind of at the forefront of the modern worker. I have been at all my jobs. Like, guys, my laptop is do I need to be here for that? Okay, there's certain times I need to be there. I can't telecommute to a game. Not really an option. We're not having any of those right now, so that's not a need. So, that's kind of where we are. I've sort of been that dude to begin with. When you're in my/our industry, You've got your phone, you got your laptop. You're kind of up and running in this digital world that we function in, especially.